Hey guys, welcome back to another Planet Mithril Paints, and today we're taking a trip over to the Kingdom of Rhun and the fierce Easterlings that reside there. Elegant and dangerous, these warriors can strike fear into the heart of anyone in Middle-earth. We hope you enjoy. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Painting an Easterling skin isn't too much of a priority as their face is covered by their helmet, but we think it adds a nice level of detail to the model, so we went for it anyway. Start by painting the flesh through the eye sockets with Bugman's Glow. Apply a layer now with Cadian flesh tone. We are lucky here and can forego a lot of the interim highlight stages as the surface area of the flesh is so minute. Once the wash is dry, carefully apply a dot highlight around the eyes with Kislev flesh just to make them pop a little more beneath the helm. Now you can carefully pick out the eyes with Abaddon Black and Pallid Witch Flesh. This is completely optional, but apparently we can't leave eyes unpainted on this channel, so we put ourselves through this painstaking process. Undoubtedly the biggest, most striking feature of an Easterling army is the ornate, vicious looking armour. We want a slightly more muted look to our gold to capture the slight silveriness they have in the brief scene in the Two Towers. To achieve this we'll be using some paler golds as well as repeated washes and glazes to subtly bring up the richness without it looking too garish. To start, base coat all the gold armour with Rune Lord brass. This covers pretty nicely, but to keep a smooth finish you may want to apply this in a few thinner layers. We'll be washing twice before moving on to the next layering stages. The first will be a thorough wash with Agrax Earthshade to provide some depth and tone to the Rune Lord brass, appropriately for the subsequent stages. The second will be a thinned down glaze of Druchii Violet. This helps to add another subtle layer of complexity to the armour's hue and brings up the richness nicely and subtly to give an almost regal look to the armour. Make sure to thin this down enough to avoid the armour becoming purple. We recommend an approximate 20-80% split in favour of Lamy and medium. Once both washes have dried, layer over all the armour with a mix of Rune Lord brass and Canoptek alloy. Focus on the bigger panelled areas of gold, leaving the two washes showing in the recesses, and in such areas as the spikes, around the eyes and the grooves on the headdress. Once the null oil glaze is dried and the armour looks suitably beaten, apply a highlight using pure canoptek alloy, focusing more on the outer edges of the armour plating to create a sense of light bouncing off a shiny surface, and also create a jagged, sharp sense which is characteristic of the Easterling warriors. Finally, apply an extreme edge highlight with a mix of canoptek alloy and pallid witch flesh to the absolute outer edges and upper points of the armour. This will just make these absolute edges pop that little bit more, and we feel creates a really nice flow of light and reflection across the overall model. Now, onto the second most important part of an Easterling warrior, the rich red robes which complement well with the gold armour. We want to give our Easterling a really regal look, so we're going to be making our red slightly richer to complement the muted tones of the beaten gold on the front. Start off by base coating all the underrobes with a mix of Mephiston red and Rhinox hide. Now we're going to bring up the rich undertones of the base coat in preparation for the following wash by adding some Evil Sun Scarlet to the Mephiston Rhinox mix. Once the wash is dry, relayer with the previous mix, being sure to leave the Carabao Crimson wash showing in the recessed folds of the material. The headdress areas are quite flat in comparison to the defined folds of the rest of the robes, so take care to make sure you place your layers appropriately to give these areas a sense of flow and definition which will match the rest of the model. Add some Fire Dragon Bright to the mix for the first highlight stage. Now you want to focus on further defining the folds of material by applying this to the upper and most prominent folds of material, leaving the previous layers visible in the recesses. The Fire Dragon Bright might seem like a stark choice, but it really brings the hue of the previous mix up naturally if added in appropriate increments, and helps capture that rich, regal texture we want to achieve. You can continue to add Fire Dragon Bright in increasing increments for as many subsequent highlight stages as you wish. We only applied one further highlight here before moving on to the final stage. Again, pushing the definition of the outer folds of the robe, keeping our highlights as tight as possible. By the time you're done, however, your mix should contain no more than 50% Fire Dragon Bright. Now, add some Lugnath Orange to the overall mix for extreme edge highlight on the absolute outer and upper areas of material. The finished result should give you a really defined, well blended, rich flowing look to the Easterlings underrobes. Carefully pick out any straps, the sash hanging down between his legs, and the decoration on the shield outer with dried bark. Now, apply a layer all over these with a mix of dried bark and Baneblade Brown. Finally, apply a fine edge highlight with pure Baneblade Brown, similarly to how you painted the robes, focusing on the upper areas of the sash and the edges of the belt straps. You can also carefully draw this in long, thin lines horizontally across the shield decoration to add some texture to the shield outer. Paint the blade and any silver details with lead belcher. Once the wash is dried, apply an edge highlight with Rhun steel. Now, paint the trouser legs, shoes, gloves and any excess material not already covered with a mix of Abaddon black and Eshin grey. Apply a layer now by adding more Eshin grey to the mix, bringing the concentration of Eshin in the mix to an approximate 75%. Finally, apply a fine edge highlight to the upper crest of material with pure Dawnstone. And there you have it, a fierce Easterling warrior ready now to answer the call of Sauron and wreak havoc on the battlefield.